My colleague Roland has been interacting with Adam Mutawakilu, MP for Damongo and ranking member of Energy and Mines Committee in Parliament. And so we'll bring you that.
We get a lot of windfall, a lot of accruals from the energy sector, especially from petroleum when we do the export ultimately. But we also know that revenues are important. But streamlining that with how we perform with the economy, knowing that many of the growth, especially witnessed in industry, has been aligned or akin to petroleum and the upstream sector. Perhaps we'll have a word or two with him and ask him if that is the way to go. But Mr. Mutawakilu, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, my good brother.
And we know that once the budget is being read, you in the minority and per your observations would have noticed certain trends. What usually would you say, as far as the petroleum sector is related, have been the trend in terms of how well or judiciously the statutory as well as the normal revenues are used per what the regulations are?
Yeah, it is expected that when the we've paid capital carried and participating interest and how much is paid to GMPC, then we have the net, then 70% for the budget. But this year we've been lucky, and I expect that they should account properly for the revenue, because the 2018 budget indicated that the benchmark price, that is the price at which we sell our oil that we produce, will be $57 per barrel. But this year we've been selling above $60 per barrel. As we speak, it's about $65 per barrel per the Brent crude. So that means we are having some windfall. But accountability is where the issue is. Because in 2017, out of the money that had been raised through our oil export, 403 million Ghana cedis is unaccounted for. We don't know what they have used the money for. As we speak, Minister of Finance cannot respond to what they have used the money for. Last week we had PIAC report, which indicated it. We asked the Minister of Finance, they couldn't tell us how much of that money, what it has been used for, and 403. If this trend continues, this year they are not able to account, then there is a problem, serious problem. That means even the oil revenue we collect, because you cannot put it anywhere, government is not able to account for it. And that is quite a big worry, especially this year that we are even getting windfalls.
But we know what PIAC has been saying, and also the issues about whether there's efficient utilization, but also monitoring of the projects that for which we have the monies being used for. And what have been the mindsets of the committee on these?
Yeah, the point is, when it comes to the project, we all agree it's so thinly spread. And we believe that we should now narrow on specific projects. When you take the Ghana Gas Company, because it was a project that we used part of the oil revenue under Mills Mahama administration to do.
You mean the 1 billion or nearly 1 billion?
Yes. You can attach that at least from our oil proceeds. We took this facility and this is what we have. But if you went to a place like the road ministry, they have spread this money over 30 projects. A project that costs like $60 million, then they say $1 million from oil proceeds. How can you effectively assess the performance of the oil revenue? So we've been calling on government to limit it to specific projects. This year we are using the ABFA to do 3 projects. At the end of the year we assess, do we need to extend it? But as far as we continue to spread it thinly, we'll continue to have problem with the monitoring. Because some of the money is given out to complete existing projects that are not oil funded. So most often, that is where the challenge is. And we also ask that the Auditor General should collaborate very well with PIAC and to be able to ascertain the true facts, because they do the financial evaluation. If you say you've released money for this project, it's the auditor that actually ensure and put it in a report, and that can be brought to Public Accounts Committee. So we believe that collaboration between PIAC and the Auditor General will be very, very effective.
But we know locally, when it comes to how we use petroleum as consumers, we've seen some price relativities in terms of upward adjustments locally. And of course, we're getting from the export, but the argument has always been that it will influence transportation, the fares, etc. And it looks like it has. Is that your observation?
Yeah, within the 2 years of Nana Akufo-Addo government, fuel prices have gone up 17 times. As at the end of 2016, a gallon of petrol was 14 cedis. As we speak today, it's 25 cedis. Government continue to give excuses that it is influenced by international oil prices and production. But it has effectively been as a result of the continuous depreciation of the cedi, and two, government not willing to remove some taxes that have become irrelevant. When I say irrelevant, means that the purpose for which they were brought to Parliament no more exists, and therefore need not be part of the petroleum price build-up that constitutes over 40% of the price of petrol or fuel. Now, the increment is very quick. The increment, if you want to know the indigenous, how this government is being insensitive, when there are increments, quickly they transfer it to consumers. But the last window, there have been consistent decline in the price of the crude price, about 4%. But the last window, instead of reducing it by about 4%, do you know what the OMC reduced? About 1.2%. About over 2.8%.
So you're saying there's not been that consistency.
There wasn't
but realistically, Mr. Mutawakilu, we're told that is deregulation.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. MPA is supposed to monitor to ensure that if prices decline by about 4%, just like when it increases by 4%, they quickly come out that, oh, international oil prices are going up by 4%. As a result, we should pay 4% more. When there have been a reduction about 4%, we expect that MPO will ensure that the OMC reduce it by 4%. But the last window, they only reduced by 1.2%. So that is the insensitivity of this government and Nana Akufo-Addo to the plight of Ghanaians. And now we are monitoring the next window, and there have been consistent decline in the crude oil prices. I want to monitor how much they will reduce, and then I'll come out publicly. Because the last window, there should have been about 4% reduction.
Let's be realistic. Government needs the revenue. We have free SHS and some other social spending that we need to do, and we have to be realistic as a people.
Revenue raising must go along with the law. So if you bring a law to raise revenue because of a drastic decline in the international oil prices, and when you are making deficit, you needed to fill in that gap, you must be sincere to the people. When the price goes up in terms of our export, you are making excess. Be frank with the people that, okay, now we are making surpluses on our export. This tax was meant to fill in a deficit, but now we are making surpluses. We want to change the purpose for the tax. So if you need it for free SHS, come to Parliament. The special petroleum tax, change the purpose for which you brought it to, it was brought to Parliament, and Ghanaians will say, okay, we embrace it or not.
Okay,
but you don't pass it through the back door.
My last question. What would be your take then on the argument that perhaps we need to take a relook about the structure of what government can access because we have to fund education for the future generation? And largely it's about free SHS now.
Yeah, education for the future generation has always been the purpose for every government. But you don't do populist and don't become rigid.
Meaning what?
Yes. You can realize that the free SHS that Nana Akufo-Addo introduced is more political than developmental. It's more political. because many think tanks, many professionals have come out that restructure it for the vulnerable to have the free SHS. The rich should pay. He says no. However, the World Bank report, just recently published, has indicated that if we go this way for the next 18 years, 56% of the people we educate will not be productive. Only 44% will be productive.
We'll be having an output of chaff students.
Chaff, 56% will just be chaff. They will just be liability. They cannot produce to the development of this country because you are using a populace and making it more political.
That's a concern for you.
Very big concern. When you produce more people who are chaff, it becomes a security threat because you have to now be able to take them along. And therefore, I call on them, the president, to accept that the free SHS, we need to now look at it. Where those who deserve to be given free SHS, given those who can pay, should pay. But using it as a political tool will not be to the advantage of the people of Ghana and to the benefit of the people of Ghana.
Well, thank you. It's just a short conversation we wanted to have, and we've been speaking to the Member of Parliament for Damongo. He's a ranking on Parliament Mines and Energy Committee, speaks on many issues about energy, etc. And it's been a nice conversation. We hope that you're going to enjoy the budget, sir.
Oh, so it will be a slogan budget, always slogan. You know, last year they said job creation, and we ended up joblessness.
Well, so that'll be it for now. We have to go back to the studio.